You are about to see the most durable men and women athletes in the world extending themselves to the absolute limits of their endurance in a quest for self-knowledge, for personal honor that only they can explain and only they can understand. This is the Ironman World Triathlon. Hi, I'm Bruce Dern, and I'm here on the Kailua Pier on the Big Island of Hawaii. As you can see and hear behind me, it's about to begin. These 600 men and women will go in the water, swim 2.4 miles, come out, take a shower, put on bike gear, climb on their bicycles, and ride 112 miles. Get off the bike, change into running gear, and run a marathon. Now, just so you get an idea of what that entails in terms of mileage, that's the equivalent of going from New York to Baltimore. In its first year, only 15 hardy souls trained for the Ironman Triathlon. 13 finished. 15 more tried it the next year. 13 finished. Didn't look as if it was catching on, but it was. The next year, 108 entered. And the year after that, 305. Now there's nearly 600, and they've come from everywhere. Why? There's a search involved here. A search for what lies inside.
The reason I compete is because it's like if you took a class and you learned all this and then they never gave you the final exam, you really don't know whether you did well or not.
Here's Dave Scott, winner of the 1980 Ironman Triathlon in record time of 9 hours and 24 minutes. A fitness consultant from Davis, California. Nice, friendly guy, normal as they come. Yeah. Except that in a week he swims 5,000 yards, bikes 380 miles, and runs 70 miles.
My commitment to training is not an obsession, I think, like some people would categorize it. It involves my entire day, but I don't feel as though I have to go through a certain ritual to get to a certain mental level to train. I know what I need to do. I try to plan it out fairly strategically and methodically. And even though I am doing it 5 to 8 hours a day, I don't feel as though I'm really obsessed with that, if you can understand that.
They're testing Kim Bouchong's stamina at California's El Camino College, measuring his energy fuel, his oxygen concentration, scientific things like that. The treadmill simulates a painful uphill climb, but Kim's only 24. He's a match for even these infernal machines. Bouchong, Scott, just kids, really. But not all of the triathletes are youngsters. Harry Dupree's 43 and president of an Oklahoma City bank. A guy like this has to squeeze his training in between foreclosures. At 39, Kay Moore finished the 50-mile mountain run over the Continental Divide. Now she's one of 50 women trying to be an Ironman. And you know, not every one of these women's been at it as long as Kay. Kathleen McCartney hadn't done anything more strenuous than swim in a pool until a year and a half ago. Then her boyfriend persuaded her to run with him. Within 4 months, she was running with him in marathons. 6 months ago, she took up biking. Now she's going to ride one at top speed for 112 miles.
The men that I've been training with are generally stronger than I am, so I'm always chasing them down, and I think that's helped me to pick up my speed and aggressiveness.
The Tinley brothers, Scott and Jeff, train together to relieve what even they confess can be the drudgery of a 6-hour workout. Scott, the older one, he's 25. He's married, works as an instructor by day at an aquatic center, and studies for his master's degree at night. He's done so many marathons, he's looking for new roads to run and ride on, and new waters to cross.
And everybody's done a marathon now, and now everybody's shooting for triathlons. It's the next step, I suppose. The Hawaiian Triathlon being the biggest of the events, doing it last year for the first time and doing halfway decent, and going back this year, I suppose, just to try and improve my time and to give it a good shot.
Little Jimmy Stokes, a wee man from Cornwall, Ontario. admits at age 63, "My aspirations far exceed my abilities," but he makes do. He runs marathons, runs up the side of mountains, and when no mountain's available, he runs up and down stairways. He parachutes, he skis cross country, and you know what he does to relax? He roller dances.
The business about aging is a sore point with me. People seem to think that because you get to a certain age, you should act in a certain manner. I never did it when I was young. I'm damned if I'm going to do it when I'm getting older.
The island of Hawaii, the big island of the chain. Nearly twice the size of the other Hawaiian islands combined. Its landscape joins dark volcanic rock with lush tropical vegetation. Geologically, it's the youngest of the islands, but the first to be inhabited by Polynesian adventurers from the south. We arrive here from Honolulu by Hawaiian Air and drive the short distance to Triathalon headquarters at the magnificent Kona Surf Hotel, perched on black cliffs above the thundering Pacific. The Triathalon course traces some 60 miles of the rugged Kailua-Kona shoreline. The swimmers will plunge into the waters of Kailua Bay, swim out to the anchored sailing vessel, Keana, go around her and head back to the pier. That's a total distance 2.4 miles. You know, there's really only one way to appreciate what these athletes will endure, and that's to give the 3 events a try. I'm not going to do the whole course, but I am going to try to do just enough of it to get a feel for it. Well, I don't feel so bad. Water's about 70 degrees, no rough surf, no real undertows, no swells. Of course, there's not 600 and some odd contestants around me yet, all going in the water at the same time like a bunch of lemmings. Somebody could get kicked in the goggles or something. You never know. I'm here by myself, and it's actually delightful. From the pier, the bikers pedal through town and head north along the Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway to the coastal village of Hawi. Then it's back again on Alihi Drive to the finish at the Kona Surf. Well, I gotta tell you, it's starting to get to me a little bit. And I've only done, what, 8 miles? Means I got about 104 to go on the bike. My legs aren't doing too bad. But on the bike, I'll tell you something, it's the back of your neck and your shoulders that really get stiff. I'm gonna try and pick it up now and see how hard I can really go on the bike. See if I could ever really be a cyclist. The runners start at the Kona Surf and follow the coastline to the turnaround near the Kahola Airport. Then it's back to where it all started, to the finish line at the pier, if they're lucky. From here on in, it really gets grim. For 99% of the people still left at this point, they're possessed with one thing, finishing. They're saying to themselves, if I can be standing at the finish, I've won. And they're right. But for the gifted few, for our 1% that are still competing, that are still racing, they're more than standing. They're wondering, can I catch that guy up there? What about the guys behind me? Are they gonna get me? Are they coming on me? Are they picking up on me? Can I get him? Because let me tell you something. This is it. The last hour of this triathlon, on the pavement, at 110 degrees, that's when we're gonna find out who the hell the Ironman really is. Sun's up. You're waiting for the gun. The Budweiser Light Ironman Triathlon is about to start. It's a self-seeding race. The good swimmers are nearest the water. And if they weren't, they'd just crawl right over the slower ones, making a mess anyway. Once you're in the water, the problem is knowing where you're going, believe me. If you wander off course, you might end up swimming 3 miles instead of just 2.4. In open sea, you just can't put your head down and go. You gotta be looking ahead. The smarter swimmers, they play a little follow the leader on the way there. The leader is clearly W.F. McCarthy right now. He's 27, he's a steel contractor from Sacramento, California. a steel contractor who obviously spends a little time at the beach. So at the halfway point with 1.2 miles to go, McCarthy's leading almost 600 other swimmers. With W.F. McCarthy still in first place, the leaders head for the pier and the finish of the swimmers' portion of the Ironman Triathlon on the Big Island of Hawaii. Following McCarthy, there's a group of four: Patrick Bruce, Kim Bouchon, Bill Leach, and Dave Scott. You notice how they're going flat out, keeping on line? They'll finish the race in about an hour, leaving the rest of the pack behind. There will be others who will be in the water 2, maybe even 3 hours. These front runners are heading for the largest bike parking lot in the world today. There's something else they'll need, too. Fuel. ERG, water, bananas, oranges. Food to keep them going on the bike. Now, McCarthy's way out front now. You notice how he lifts his head high up in the water to keep himself on line? He's the navigator for that group of four. Involuntarily, he's breaking water for them. They're using him. Scott's won this race before, but it looks as if he's playing it kind of cagey here. Staying close, biding his time. But it's all McCarthy right now. He's going to win the swim easily. He'll hit the pier as the Ironman leader and get that important head start on the bike. But he does look a little wobbly coming out of the water. His time is 57:39. Not too bad. McCarthy's on his way to the shower and then his bike. And here come the four: Patrick Bruce, Kim Bouchon, Bill Leach, Dave Scott. McCarthy's up. Oh, look at that. Bouchon's made a lightning close change. He passes him almost before they get started. Bouchon takes the lead in the parking lot. You notice that Kim immediately goes to his food supply? It's absolutely essential that the biker nourish himself at regular intervals and drink all the water he can in the straining race. Any break in that routine will be disastrous. Dave Scott, a strong biker, just blasted by Mark Montgomery and a tired-looking Bill Leach to take second place behind Kim. And Dave's wasting no time making his move. He'd like to stay close to Kim in this race and then bury him in the marathon, which is not one of Kim's better events. There's Pat Hines, a champion backstroker, the first woman out of the water. Remarkably, she finished this swim minutes ahead of Scott Tinley, and Tinley finished third overall in last year's Ironman. Even this early in the day, the heat is beginning to become an enemy. The bikers need that water inside and out to keep their body temperatures down. When you leave the lava, there's no relief either, because now the course winds uphill and it gets windy, and the bikers suffer some more. And I can see from the headlights of the escort car now that Dave Scott's keeping pace. He's about a mile back. Dupre's out of the water, and here's Kim, widening his lead, heading on to Javi. Jimmy Stokes is out. He swam it in 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 50 seconds. Amazing, isn't it? He only counted on doing it between 2.5, 3 hours. Just to give you an idea, there are still more than 60 swimmers out there. So I'd say that's not too bad for a man of 63. Kim Bouchon still in the lead. He's been out there now 3 hours and 8 minutes. That away, Kimmer. Kim's laboring now. His head is bobbing. He's offering too much wind resistance. The headwinds are hitting at about 15 miles an hour, and it's getting hotter. Dave Scott's feeling it now, too. Kim and Dave have both gone more than halfway, and their backs, their legs, their shoulders, everything aches. Pain is making its mark on these unlined young faces. Everything seems to be working against them. The elements, the terrain, their own fallible bodies. Now here's Scott Tinley passing Leach. He's starting to come on now. He's a superb athlete. He's strong in all 3 events. Tinley seems as concerned with his brother's progress as he is with his own. Jeff's out there somewhere, but it's Scott now who's bearing down on a tiring Bouchon. There's Sean Wilson, taking this hill in second place among the women. And Tinley has caught Scott, commiserating with him as he passes. Now that's Scott Tinley passing Dave Scott. You got that? These two should be separated. Now here's Julie Moss, a 23-year-old college student. She's gone by Sean Wilson and takes over second place in the women's competition. Tinley and Scott, Scott Tinley and Dave Scott are riding together now on Alihi Drive, exchanging sponges. For all we know, maybe they're swapping stories. They're both powerful runners, so a thriller marathon could be shaping up. But Kim Bouchon still has the lead, wheeling into the Kona Surf parking lot. The finish line for the bikers is a starting point for the runners. And here come Tinley and Scott and Dave. Kim did the 112 miles on the bike in 5 hours, 8 minutes, and 11 seconds. That's within just 5 minutes of the Ironman record for this event. He's done the combined swimming and biking in 6 hours, 14 minutes, 51 seconds. That is a record pace. But he's got two top marathoners not 10 minutes behind him. And Kim is tired after a rough ride. But all he has to do is get out there and run 26 more miles. And he'll need all the sponging he can get because Tinley looks fresh and fit and determined. And Scott Tinley has one thing on his mind: run Bouchon down and win the whole thing. Pat Hines is struggling on the bike, and the strain is showing on Kim Bouchon, too. But Tinley has caught him 5 miles into the run. Graciously, he passes along words of encouragement to Tim as he swiftly leaves him behind. Dave Scott, meanwhile, may not be as fresh as the flowers, but he's not about to wilt either. And there's little Jimmy Stokes, still leaving the youngsters behind. Tinley's out front now, and he's winging. He can afford the luxury of a little stretching, a little prancing. He's keeping himself loose and ready for the final surge. And now Dave Scott wordlessly passes the weary Bouchon. Kim is game, but his chances are gone. It's exactly 8 hours and 7 minutes since he began. Here's Scott Tinley. When he turns here, he's on the way home with about 9.5 miles to go. Fantastic effort. Turn around. Just look at Tinley now. He's cruising along the lava beds, no more worn down, say, than I am. Not so for Dave Scott. He needs water. And now he's at the turnaround, firmly in second place. Earlier, Pat Hines finished the bike race, exhausted and hurting, and the women's marathon was on. Now here he is, Scott Tinley, running powerfully, the very image of the Ironman. Pat has changed for the run. Tinley is congratulated as the potential winner by runners so far behind that they're coming in the opposite direction. There seemed no question about who the Ironman is now. Pat needs some cooling off. And Julie Moss, looking cheerful, takes aim at first place. Tinley goes through this aid station as if it were a car wash. He's moving now. Kathleen McCartney starts the run, looking strong and confident. Julie passes Pat Hines to take first place in the women's race. It's hard to say who looks more tired, the victor or the vanquished. But Pat would eventually drop out of this race. It's all over in the men's race. Scott Tinley will cross the finish line in record time, looking as if he'd done nothing more strenuous than walk the dog around the block. Truly, he is the Ironman. The ceremonial lei is tossed over his blonde head, and he's embraced by both race director Valerie Silk and his own wife, Virginia. A little jog works out the kinks, and Tinley's winning time of 9 hours, 19 minutes breaks Dave Scott's old record by nearly 5 minutes. And here comes Scott, a tired Dave Scott. Still, he finishes in 9:36:57. And if Scott Tinley was wondering earlier how his brother was doing, well, here he is. Here's Jeff right now. He comes in third, completing an extraordinary 1-3 finish for the Tinley family. Kim Bouchon, game and gutsy, finishes 8th. Here comes Kay Moore into the changeover before Harry Dupree. But Harry is on her heels. Julie Moss leads the women, but at great cost. Too soon, she is approaching the edge of her stamina. And Kathleen McCartney is closing on her at the rate of a minute a mile. Julie is continuing now on hard alone. And Kathleen is gaining as the long day darkens. Is there time enough? That's the only real concern in Kathleen McCartney's mind right now. Is there time enough? Can I catch her? Can I run her down? Kathleen knows that if she can hold her pace, there may just be enough time. Time for her to catch a leader whose every step brings her nearer collapse. But Julie carries on, ever aware as day turns to night that she is racing against two adversaries, a strong young woman and her own waning stamina. Now they must continue in darkness. Julie is only 10 yards from victory, but her legs won't carry her any longer. She falls to her knees and slumps to the pavement as Kathleen, who can't see her in the confusion, breaks the ribbon. But what has happened? Who won? Kathleen asks. You did, she's told. But where's Julie? Julie? Well, Julie Moss will finish this race. She's come too far to stop now. Kathleen, exulting in her surprising triumph, still can't see Julie. Joy radiates from her. But the loser has won a victory too, and she too smiles a winner's smile. Scott Tinley, the Ironman. 9 hours, 19 minutes, 41 seconds. Dave Scott, second. 9 hours, 36 minutes, 57 seconds. Jeff Tinley, the brother, third. 9 hours, 53 minutes, 16 seconds. Kimmy Bouchon, the biker, eighth. 10 hours, 15 minutes, 44 seconds. Tommy Warren, 10th, the original Ironman. 10 hours, 18 minutes, and 6 seconds. Kathleen McCartney, first in the women's event. 11 hours, 9 minutes, and 40 seconds. Julie Moss, second. 11 hours, 10 minutes, and 9 seconds. Kay Moore, 15th in the women's class. 13 hours flat, 35 seconds. Harry Dupre Jr., top 400 overall. 14 hours, 45 minutes, 17 seconds. Little Jimmy Stokes, first over 60, 369th overall. 14 hours, 38 minutes, 31 seconds.
If I finish the Ironman and I'm an Ironman, I can die happily. That's it.